It's 1 o'clock. We'll start the meeting and ask that we all begin with a moment of silence. Thank you. I guess, Mr. Washington, we'll turn the meeting over to you. I think we've all received the budget, the updated budget information for FY21. So, turn it over to you to.
Yeah, we'll just start off by a brief recap of how we got here. Of course, we were on a budget path, a traditional budget path a few weeks ago. Because of COVID and reduction in local sales tax, we made some different adjustments. All this is in mind to try to stay in compliance with all things that we need to stay compliant with and support our nearly 13,000 students and 2,400 employees of the district. So with that being said, on page 2, you have a breakout of each fund, 141, 142, 143, and 177, representing general purpose, federal projects, food service, and education capital. The total sum of all those different funds, be it from grants or DEP or county funds, USDA funds in the case of food service, is $132,603,707. What we focus on most is the 141 budget, which is general purpose budget, which basically funds our teaching staff and all the things that support it, as far as from the state DEP funds and the county's maintenance of effort. With that being said, we'll move through. First of all, any questions looking at those sheets? We'll talk about this more than one time, review what all those different things mean. But there it is in summary right in front of us as the impact that each one of those has as we get to a bottom line.
Mr. Washington, if I could, 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at the 141 budget, I just want to make sure the beginning fund balance
Yes.
would assume that for FY20 we have full maintenance of effort funding. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. And then the revenue item for FY21 makes the same assumption. Is that
Yes.
correct?
So at this point, that's what we're assuming.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay.
So even with that assumption, if you go to the bottom line of fund balance, if we were to receive the same revenues, if you see at the line of revenues, $103,433,843, our projected expenditures are $106,393,000, then we would dip into our fund balance by $2,886,550, and we would have a fund balance of $11,239,733 at the end of 21.
One other question, if I could. At the last meeting, we got a good update on the latest status of the FY20 sales tax receipts coming in. Has there been any update to that?
No, there has not been an update since. I think there's some numbers floating around, both to the positive and to the negative character. Speak to that more, where people hypothetically saying what they think April sales tax numbers are, but they have not actually come in yet. So, so rather than start on the rumor mill, there's several different rumors about what people project those sales tax to be, but we don't have any definite concrete numbers from the state yet.
When would we receive that update?
June 20th.
June 20th.
They release them 60 days past collection.
Okay.
So at the end of the month, we would know a little bit better how April looked.
Okay.
They lag 2 months approximately all the time. All right, so with that being said, we know where we are with fund balance. We know where we might project to be if we spent 100% of what we have projected to expend, which typically we come in around 97%, but given COVID and all the things that we expect to have to be responsible for in 21, we just need to be careful on how we do our projections month to month, because we know there's several expenses that we don't normally have that we will have in 21 as we try to move through our school year. Move to the next page if there's no more questions on the summary. We have a general purpose funds, an estimate of what the BEP may look like. And from what I understand, just a few minutes ago, the governor announced that The 2% that he had projected to increase for salaries for teachers is now going to be withdrawn. It started out at 4%, got reduced to 2%. Now I think that's just going to be a wash. So that probably may impact our BEP funding in this number right here, if that 2% is taken out of the BEP model. So that's just recent information as of today, discussions within the state government. So even as we speak, things are changing to funding as we even talk about this. West Tennessee Healthcare has been a strong supporter of us for a long time, and they're going to have to withdraw their $166,000 towards our school nursing program and the funding for the health clinic at Jackson Career and Technology at JCT, and also looking at the athletic trainers for ball games. So once again, the COVID impact is widespread and impacts us in many different ways. And a lot of these people who use our clinic and our school nurses, they're their first line of defense for healthcare. And so we continue to look at more innovative ways to try to service our community who depend on these healthcare workers for just basic healthcare needs, and sometimes the only healthcare that they might be able to come in contact with. We had anticipated looking at bonuses for employees, $250 for certified and $200 for non-certified. But if these cuts take place, we may not be able to provide those. So, like I said, there's an impact as we speak to what the governor is doing, and also what we look to receive from county funds as the revenues start to firm up, and we look towards maintenance of effort, but knowing that there's a backdrop to that whole thing. As you see, TCRS basically slight decrease, not much, but it yield savings of $185,000. So I say slight, but a significant. $185,000 is a significant amount of money, but by percentage, it's about 35%, 38% in that range. It reflects a 2% in healthcare premiums increase and 5% for dental insurance premiums, costing us about $80,000. So as healthcare goes up, of course, we absorb much of the share of that increase, along with dental. We do absorb much of the share of the dental also, although the dental premiums are significantly less than healthcare. We do what we can to offset those increases as much as possible.
Excuse me, but that number is actually less than what we've been looking at.
Yeah, in some respects, yes. I think last year was flat. We didn't have anything last year in healthcare at all.
That's right. In the previous proposal, it
Yeah.
showed a 5%, but we got the confirmation that it's 2% on the increase in January, so I'll just.
And I was referring to the previous year when we didn't have any. Yes. All right, so you have a list of those things that were proposed to be reduced or eliminated over prior year. You can scroll through that, and then items that are proposed to be added or increased as we try to rearrange things over prior year. You can kind of see the net effect of both of those items. Are there any questions about any of those items?
Question from the committee, Carol?
All right, it's page 3 and page 4.
If I could, I had just 2 or 3 questions on these pages. Number one, and again, I'm just comparing this to what we looked at earlier. So right now, we are not assuming any reduction in local revenue for ADM decline. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think what has gone on.
I don't see that in
Yeah, it's not in here. The county's going to tell us exactly what that is, and we'll move to adjust, just like we'll have to move to adjust on the BEP format. So we'll make sure we get that adjusted from them if that is significant, or if that does occur, which we anticipate it occurring. Just like we're going to have to move to adjust on the BEP based on what the state does. These are all just projections right now. We know there's going to have to be some flexibility and movement within it because of things that are going on.
The textbook, $796,000. Is this non-recurring textbooks we bought last year, we just don't need to this year, or is this really a
Well,
reduction from what we planned on doing?
well, these are some things we plan to do, with, English language arts. We were gonna buy ahead on some books so we could get a discount, but we pulled that back given the budgetary constraints. But we still are able to provide the basic needs for, English language arts so that we can continue the growth pattern that we're seeing in that. But these are some additional materials that would have helped, but all the basic needs will still be taken care of within our budget that we currently have. So, we're not shortchanging, but at the same time, there are things that we would like to have done that we will not be able to do.
So, to repeat the question I asked last time, we're not stepping back,
No.
we're not taking a step back, we're just not going forward. Is that
Yeah,
right?
we're not going forward at the rate we want to. We're
Okay.
still moving seriously forward, without a doubt. But these are some supplemental things that we would have liked to have done, and we would have liked to have bought the materials in advance of a couple of years, so we could have gotten a discount. But we had to pull that back because of some of the budget constraints we're facing. We're not able to buy ahead as we anticipated. We'll buy for this fiscal year. Instead of buying 3 fiscal years, we'll just be buying the 1 fiscal year.
The Amoresco reduction, has that been discussed?
So, well, we've asked for relief, and that's been contemplated with the county, so we budgeted a third
Okay.
of the payment. We budgeted for this fiscal year, the full payment, for 2021, we budgeted a third, given, I know there's a discussion, we've asked for relief on that payment for the next 2 years while we try to catch up on, what's gonna happen with sales tax and things of that nature. So that'll be just another question that we have for the county. Could we get relief of the total payment, or at least let us pay, a third of it, a portion of it, in good faith?
Okay. Just two other questions then. We've been saying about the new organization at the central office staff, is that budget neutral, or are those changes in this budget?
I do believe they're budget neutral, given there are not any new positions added, just some redistribution of positions.
Okay.
Can I?
Yeah.
Dr. King had asked that he have, I'm going to speak to this, he wants to kind of see what's going on at the district office, before specific changes are made that may impact the budget. And so none of his ideas regarding the central office organization and staffing have been built into the budget document. So we'll see, and from my understanding, they'll be budget neutral. But we may see a shift and maybe a budget amendment that is required to move the funding from one place to another within the budget to accommodate those changes.
Dr. King, I don't mean to ignore you, so I hope you feel, just jump in. Okay.
So that's the understanding, that right now it's budget neutral, but he observes the right to make shifts and things of that nature. We have to switch some line items based on the positions as they develop.
And then my last question, as I look at this, and you've already alluded to it, anticipating having to deal with COVID-19 next year, there's really, I see something in here, I see a line item for cleaning buses. Other than that, are there any specific things that are, expenses that are in here specific to COVID-19, or that?
Well, some of which we're trying to work through with the CARES Act grant that we've want to receive. But within each department, we're looking at different COVID-related activities that may occur. And that a lot of it is going to be determined on how our plan to go back to school is. So there's a lot of variables. We got plan A, B, and C that we're working on. Is how we return to school and the impact of that. So more of that will be to come. But at the same time, we're just trying to make sure we work within a budget, utilize our dollars as smartly as possible. We know that cleaning in general is going to be a big deal. We know that temperature checking is going to be a big deal as we go back in inner buildings. We know that we may have to do more virtual. okay? So we tried to allow for that where we could within the line items of each different department. But that whole disinfecting thing for buses is going to be a separate deal to itself, because that's going to be a major impact.
I think we all feel strongly it's imperative that we get kids back in school next year.
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is, we should anticipate, in addition to what we're seeing right here, another bucket of expenses. It's hard to quantify those right now. And there might be some pluses and minuses, but we've got to get these kids back in school.
So
We should anticipate, Mr. Chairman, I think, I'm not on the board this year, but I think we should anticipate another bucket of expenses that it's hard to define right now, but there could be a major impact to this budget next year.
Well,
Is that a fair statement?
yeah, so based on CDC guidance, guidance is what it is. The state is going to put out guidance. The commissioner's call the other day, she alluded to different guidance and toolkits that are going to come out that Dr. Williams and I have been listening to as much as possible. There's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday call from the commissioner that they kind of lay out some things. So it's starting to get to where they're getting more definitive. It's the guidance that they're going to provide, and then we'll just take that guidance and incorporate it into what is done here for our district, how it meets needs. Because quite frankly, in the state, there are some counties without any COVID cases. So for them, it's going to look different for us. So right now, we know that the governor is not going to mandate anything like he did with school closure. It's going to be district to district is how you reopen. So each district will have their own unique plan based on what's going on in their community, collaboration with the health department and other agencies, the hospital, as to how we reopen school and what level of testing or at least monitoring that we do to help prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Again, I'm not sure who I should be addressing the question to, you or Dr. King, but as a part of those collaborations, are we talking to the teachers and so, because that's another critical group right there. Are we in conversations with them about what opening school is going to look like?
So we will be in conversation with teachers, but initially we have to start out here internally by building a team first before we start including the different stakeholders from the school level and from the community. So what our school new normal initiative, which is the reentry plan, would look like, we'll have 4 buckets: communications, academics, students, and operations. And so there will be teams on all 4 of those buckets. There will be teachers, community leaders, central office staff members a part of these teams. Dr. Williams and Dr. Catlett will facilitate this process and work with all 4 teams. Once we engage everyone and get enough context around what we need to do, then we'll start drafting out information around what it should look like for our school. But the first thing we have to do is start looking at the varied entry plans that are already being proposed throughout the United States. But we got to figure out which one is going to be best for our community. So that's kind of the thought behind how we're going to move forward. We don't want to jump to teachers immediately because we want to have enough context to provide for them. This week we have a Zoom call with all principals because we wanted their input. And so we gave them 3 essential questions around what would re-entry look like. And they were able to give us feedback based on school closure that happened in March and what were some of the things that were concerning to them and what some ideas could be moving forward. So we've already begun gathering that information, but in moving forward, we will build out a team that will include stakeholders and internally and externally.
Is the conversation right now contemplating starting 1 August? That's a very short time frame to get all this done.
I'm not so certain if school will start in August throughout the state, but I can't.
Okay, I'm just curious.
But I'm not. There are a lot of things that we have to have in place. We were in our executive committee, and one of the things that Holly highlighted was just the signage. The students will have to follow, people have to follow. So things like that, we have to think about this in all schools or what schools we will use. So right now, I have not heard a definite where people will start in August.
The plan you were outlining makes sense. I was just, as you were outlining it, I said, incredible amount of work to get done, first of all. So, that's why I asked, okay, that's.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I think, about an excellent point concerning, what, opening schools gonna look like financially. I think, based on CDC estimates, it costs us $7 to $8 million. We've got $3 million in care money, right? 3.1, we have to give private schools part of that, that funding, so we end up probably with 3.1, 3.2 million. The other thing is, my concern was that we originally had dipped $6 million to our fund balance. And you see that we it's occurred, it's on 2.8 now. So I think it's operationally critical that we don't dip too deep in that fund. We don't know what funding we'll need for our school this next year. And actually, after budget has been completed and voted on by the county commission, and we may not be able to go back and ask them for funds again. So that's why I think it's operational critical that we maintain a certain amount in our fund balance for operational purposes.
Just to echo that point, Mr. Chairman, as I listen to the big things we've talked about here, it looks like to me there are a number of opportunities for this budget to get worse. But as we talked about, it starts with state funding, may go down. We're not sure about the ADM reduction. And then we've got this COVID-19, which who knows what that's going to cost to deal with. So, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's imperative. Okay. I'm sorry.
That's all right, great, that's what we're here for. All right, as we've gone through and we've looked at pages 1 through 4 and answered the questions, I'll let Holly kind of take over and talk about the fund history and some of those forecasts that she projects.
Okay, so you'll see the actual fiscal year 19, that's per our audit. Estimated fiscal year 20, looks like we're coming in right at 95% of budget, which is better than the numbers that we were seeing, say, back in February, March. It looked like we were gonna come in at about 97%. And so with the COVID-19 and schools closing, we were able to capture some savings there, which will cause our fund balance be used, of course, as we move into next year. And then the forecast for next year is very unpredictable. Just Campbell brought up last time, I had 98%, but truly, we really just don't know where we'll be. I would anticipate that we'll be back asking for additional funding for items that we could not foresee. And so I've just shown you that 100% of expenditures and revenue. And so, and of course, the revenue is questionable as well.
Question for Holly. Holly, I would just say one more time, when you think about what we just talked about, some of the big buckets that could go down. Then I'm back on page 3, looking at all the tweaks that we've already made to the budget here to get to where we are. I say a lot of 25,000, 28,000, 30,000, 36,000, a lot of tweaks. So I would really endorse using that 100% of budget for a lot of different reasons at this stage. I don't think that's being overly conservative at all.
So that is it as far as the general purpose proposal. We've already covered federal programs, food service, and there was a minor change to ed capital. And so if you'd like to move into that, certainly can. The one item that was changed from the previous meeting is the engineering services. There was previously $250,000 budgeted for that to be used, toward, the work, the K-8 school in North Jackson. And so that's been pulled back on, and we're gonna allow that to call the fund balance, and be designated for, to be used towards track and field at JC. The balance of the fund balance money, will be used towards, and it won't be near enough, but will be used towards the purchase of furniture, technology, and infrastructure, alarm systems, classroom equipment, and other items needed at Madison and JC.
Question for Holly on this case cap.
Question, how many dollars did we give up this year, in this current year's budget to assist the county in capital, education capital funding? Did we divert or reduce them? I know we spoke about lockers.
Oh, so the locker rooms at West Venus and JCT, that was about $2 million that we pulled out to divert towards maybe the capital needs of JC and Madison. It's in fund balance. It's a part of that $2.4 million that we're holding on to, so that we can make sure that we have what we need for those schools. You know, it's on the way. I think the total is about 4.8, but we pull that back from those projects to hold here, so that we could be assured that we have a good start to get those projects completed, as they're ongoing right now in this fiscal year. And then the $250,000 she talked about, we had allocated, you know, to try to keep the, and which we still are, keeping the K-8 project going, but we just pulled that back in the fund balance and may reserve the right to pull it out in case we need to do a few different things with it. But we just pulled it back from that project specifically for now, and then reserve the right to pull it back up if we need it for whichever project. All right?
So, Mr. Chairman, I just follow up on that. I just didn't want to, actually, I went back and reviewed the division of responsibility on the two development agreements and the budgets on that.
Yeah.
So, and just to review, remember, we've got $300,000 coming from the food services budget to cover kitchen equipment. And I think Holly's confirmed that is in fact covered in the food services budget. So we're good on that, correct?
Right, it's my understanding from Ms. Powering that we have equipment, fairly new equipment at Madison that will be transferred over to the new building, as well as other new equipment in the district or good used equipment in the district that may be shifted over as well to the new schools. Plus, there's $150,000 in the food service budget that can also be used towards the purchase of any new equipment that's needed.
So that's covered, but then Mr. Washington alluded to it, we still got right at $5 million right now budgeted to get Madison and JCM ready to open. That's furniture, fixtures, cabinetry, lab equipment.
Cameras, things of that nature.
What's that? Yeah.
Cameras.
And that's got some contingency in it.
Some wiring.
But even if you cut the contingency in half, we need this $2.4 million that you see plus another $2 million. So my concern in the presentation of this, I just, again, just want to make sure next year nobody thinks we've got $2.4 million. Really, I would prefer this thing shown as this 2.4 is committed to JCM and Madison, and then asterisks and says, oh, by the way, we still need $2 more million. But I just want to make sure.
We're clear on it.
Huh?
We're clear on it. I think Karen and Doug over at the county are clear also where we're staying with that. And talking to Mr. Stevenson, he knows it. We talk about it often.
Yeah, okay,
We have updated that document
okay.
as compared to what you received yesterday, so that you can see on the screen, this is what will be presented to the board.
And we said track and field is really the JCM project in general. Ms. Stevenson, track and field is just the JCM projects. Because we talked about uniforms, we talked about band, we talked about football uniforms, athletic uniforms, there's a lot that's gonna have to happen with that school, because they currently don't have it when we reopen. So not just the funds in the school, I mean, you talk about all the ancillary things that schools do, as far as athletics and activities, that's gonna have to be accounted for. We did put some of it in the budget, but we know there's more. And we're gonna be looking, once, I guess, with Dr. King hiring the principal, we'll look at how we gonna work to raise funds and do things of that nature to get them off to a good start. Because right now, that school is depleted of everything, basically. When it closed several years ago, it's nothing to start with. So we have to start from scratch with activities.
If I could make one suggestion, Dr. King, I would pull out as quickly as possible that budget for the division of responsibilities and start doing. I don't know how conservative that budget is. I don't know how tight that was right now. I would pull out that budget and start doing some comprehensive pricing on that to see. Again, it seemed like to me there was almost, I don't know, close to $800,000 in contingency in there. We may need every bit of that, or on the other hand, we may not. But I would just suggest that we get started on the big items, doing some comprehensive pricing, and then just saying, you know, where we really stand on that. That's a big number, and those are going to be critical dollars.
And Alan and his team have been working on that. They haven't actually did anything yet, but they've gotten good estimates on, especially a lot of the low voltage camera type stuff. That's a lot of that money, on kind of where that's going to come in at. But as we get closer, of course, it'll get bid sometime when we get closer to that part of the construction. Because most of these things are built into the building. It's not something that you can add a year later. You have to build it into the structure of the building. Many of the things that we're talking about. It's not an add-on, it's a part of what we're doing.
Okay.
So is there any other questions about A capital? Okay, and after that, it's just the actual details, line item by line item of actual in 18-19, what we look like in 20, and I estimated for 2021. So line by line, basically, through each different funds.
Question for the committee here. Carol? Question? Yeah. Chairman, you got questions? No. You've been putting this together, so anything you want to point out?
I think I've got some ideas about the fund balance. And when you look at those, on page 3, those reductions, some were pretty tough reductions made. If you look at staffing, and one thing that took us longer to look at some of those items. I'm counting ahead of I think June 1 is the deadline, completing the budget. And we asked for extension because of a lot of detail items that we wanted to consider. Fund balance was one, which is critical. I think when we look at some of these reductions, some of the things we definitely need, but we determined that we still can operate schools without another year. I think that was important. The other thing is working in sync, in concert with the county. Some of the adjustments we made, especially capital, those type of things, we worked with them, so we did give up things, and I think we went by law. Main stuff, and that's what our duty is to our students. Bottom line, so that's what we did. It wasn't that we didn't give out, though. Like I said, we diverted some of those capital zones, and I think the county also diverted. I think $1.5 million for local property taxes that we usually give. I think we've the same, and, overlook the county to do this difficult time. I think the, revenue, football, all those things, come into play. And we work with but I think the bottom line for us, the school business, every decision we make, has to be geared toward our students. And success, that's what we give into consideration.
Dr. King, anything you'd like to?
I want to add to Chairman Johnson, we had a conversation about the additional pre-K classes that the system funds without support from the State Department, and how important, how critical early foundation is, and the fact that although there is you see a decline in student enrollment for students that we're paid for, I think people fail to consider the students that we're taking in, pre-K students that we're not being funded for. So I think that is something for them to consider as we move forward, because those additional pre-K classes, they do cost. So I think that is important. I think one last note that I would make is,
Just to piggyback on that, I think number-wise, I think we lost 4 or 5 students,
105.
based on the PEP, but we actually gained 100 students,
Because of
in
pre-K.
pre-K. So actually, we don't lost about 5 or 10 students. So we still got those private schools, we got students that's gonna move up from pre-K until the, next level in kindergarten. So, I want everybody to think that we are saluting students, strategically. We only lost about 10, 15 students, about 10 students. The early foundation is operational critical. We're talking about school system. Early foundation is critical to our system. So we definitely want to keep building that piece.
Question? So, Mr. Washington and Mr. Chairman, I'm assuming you all present this to this committee for our recommendation.
Recommendation, yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion to recommend this, budget. With our approval, recommend it to the full board for approval tomorrow. We have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
We got a motion, Kevin, we have a second. We have a second. Any other discussion from the committee? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
All right, that's it.